Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Horticultural Hales. This time I'm starting a bit earlier. So actually you won't know this, but this video is actually recorded on Tuesday. So I'm a few days early, but main reason being is my granddad called me this morning. He wants some peppers, so I thought, well, I'll get right to it, and I thought I'd show you guys along the way. So to start off with, all I've done is, excuse the water everywhere, is I've got one of my larger, well, I call them potato trays because I chit all my potatoes in them, but I've got one of my larger trays and I've filled it to, again, about fingernail depth, so about a centimetre all the way around, and then just lightly watered it because it's seeming to be very hot Easter again, despite the wetter weather we had this weekend. So let's get to it. What you want to do, open your seed packet. You'll notice I'm growing a lot of everything. That's because I usually give a lot of my stuff to my granddad, because he ends up saying, yeah, I'll take all your spare stuff if you don't want it. So I always grow a few extra. And as I said in one of my other videos, it's always good to grow extra because you never know what the year is going to be like. So there's none in the top. Whoop. Okay, sorry. So then I'm going to do another pretty pattern, I think, because again this is all going on YouTube, so it's always good. Let's hope this goes better than last time. And these, when you spread them out, just spread them out about 2.5 centimeters. It's just so then when they do germinate, it's easier to distinguish and count the plants. And then you can judge by then how good your compost is. Speaking of compost, I took it upon myself, with my dad's suggestion as well. I decided I'd mix some up. So usually I'm using a multi-purpose compost, just by itself. Ooh. Oh, I dropped a few. I'll pick them up. Yeah, usually I use a multi-purpose compost. But as my dad suggested, I thought, oh, that's a good idea. I decided to. Oh, that's where you went. To put you down here because I don't know what you are. Yeah, I decided to mix up some compost. So I had the little bit of the multi-purpose. I've got 3 bags of a different all-purpose. And all I've done is I've got a green bin. I'll show you it in a minute. I'll hold it up. I've got a green bin just here. And I put in the multi-purpose in the bottom. A couple of handfuls of sand just for drainage. And then the all-purpose on top. Gave it a mix. And it should be alright. So these are golden vel times 1 word. Actually, I shouldn't put these in yet, should I? Oops. And then I'll just go through quickly. As I said, all I've done is I've put them in a pattern. This row, as you can see, I've put a little bit far between, whereas these are only about, as I said, about 2 centimeters. These are the Californian Wonders. These are the Golden Bells, and it just means that I can distinguish them between the two. And you'll notice I've got a little lone seed up here. You probably can't see it, actually. There it is. That's because I just found it on top of the compost. And I thought, I'll put it on with the Golden Bells, but I don't necessarily know if it is a Golden Bell. So now what I'm doing is just getting handfuls of the compost mixture and just spreading it gently over the top, just till it comes pretty much flush to the top of the tray. That just means that you've got an even depth between all your seeds. And these will take, you may notice, will take a little bit longer to germinate. So these can take up to 3 weeks to germinate and come through. So that's why really they wanted to go in earlier, because then they'll come up, well, I say come up sooner. Then you could be planting them out now, really, rather than, because they would have just come up, so you would be having to, as I'll show you with the tomatoes, you'll separate them into different pots and then bring them up that way. I think I want to do it actually. Yeah, you bring them up that way, and then you put them in the ground, but I'll explain more with the tomatoes. Now what I'm going to do is, this is an old concrete float, would you believe it? But it's almost the perfect size and edge shape for this. What we want to do, as I did with this, when doing the melons and such, you just want to gently press down, and that just means that you get the right soil depth that you want, and it looks a lot nicer as well. Just do this quickly. And that's all I'm going to put in. Peppers. As I said, I've got 40 seed in for my granddad. I've got about 10 seed for me, which will mean that I've got the extra. And if it means that if I do end up with extra, I can give my granddad a bit more. As I'm doing with compost, I just need a little bit more. There we go. You know, I just thought this a little bit though. Then what I will possibly be doing next, I don't know whether I'm going to be doing that today, I'll explain in that. I'm going to be separating out the tomatoes, and I'll explain more when I do that bit. Just flatten this, and I think that's going to be it. That's now the peppers done. I'll put these to one side. Whenever there's a frost, please be sure just to cover them. And as I've told you, same with the chilies, a neat trick, you can't do it with these, is you can put them in a bag. What I tend to do if I've got them down here is actually, when we were putting this up, we had some spare glass. And so all I do, just put the glass just on top of the soil when it's frosty. So then in the mornings I can take them off. And then it acts like a propagator because it still heats up the soil better because of the sun's rays. But I won't do that now because it's not necessarily going to freeze tonight. And I'll also do it closer to the time. But no, that's these done. And I should now be doing tomatoes if they're all well being with the editing. So now I'm going to be doing my tomatoes. This is quite simple. I will also be doing my courgettes. They're just here. And all you want to do with these is similar to when we've split up other plants, is you want to dig around the plant and then gently take it out. And then I've just done these holes. I filled in several pots. I filled them up with compost. And I've just with my finger, I call it spinning, just put a little hole in down to about my knuckle. And then I'll take the tomatoes out of this one and put them in these. And then they'll come on a little bit longer. Or a bit bigger, sorry. With these, quite simply, so I'm just knocking a bit of water off, I just gave them more water. With tomatoes, you don't want to transplant these until their first shaped leaves come up. So these are a little bit late, but for example, I don't know how well you can see it, but this one, you can see this is a regular leaf, but then these in the middle, I won't touch them. These are the pointy leaves just here. And when they start to develop, really they want to be a little bit bigger, but some of these are developing second, so I've got to do them. When you do these, you cut around them, and they don't want to be done until they develop. So I'm going to show you one, and then I'm going to time lapse through the rest. I'm then also going to show you how to separate it and separate courgettes because they're getting overly large now, and I think that's going to be it. So anyway, with this, what you want to do, as I said, just single out plant. I'll just take the one closest to me, and then just gently push down and make like a little ring around it, is what I do. And then, if this works, sorry, I'm just getting up just so I can support the plant a little bit. Come on. Then take this, gently push it into your pot. And just support when you do, don't just get a bit of soil and just support the tomato as you push it in. And then just gently firm round just so then it gets that extra support so that it is upright. And that's it. Sorry, I had to just stand up there. And then that's it, that's the tomato. This will come up, I wouldn't put these in until they're about this high, then they're really starting to develop. And as they get to about this big, maybe even bigger if you want to take them up a little bit, you'll see in here they'll develop side shoots. Now these you want to take out just so then it supports the growth going up. And if you do keep them in pots and just decide to keep going on and on, if they start when they're about, say, a foot, 2 foot high, if they start, actually no, it's more when they're a foot actually, whilst they're about a foot tall, if they start developing trusses, just take the trusses off, then that supports the main growth. But then after that, leave all the trusses on. Yeah, so I am now going to time-lapse through the rest of these, get the rest of these done, and then I'm going to explain about the courgettes. Oh, one thing before, once I've done all of these, because I've had this handmade stuff, because with this stuff I haven't watered it in about a week. If you have got dry soil or using dry compost, I would recommend watering them afterwards, just so then they're not dry and then won't die. And then with these, you can water these whenever they look dry, or every couple of days maybe, but don't overwater them. So yeah, just every couple of days give them a little bit of a water. So I'm going to time lapse through the rest and I'll see you in a minute. So now we're going to do the Black Beauty courgettes. As you can see, they have prolifically grown. These have only been in a couple of weeks. And so it's fantastic that they've got this big already. The method again, I'll just show you with one, but it's pretty much exactly the same as before with the tomatoes. I've again just done a hole about to my knuckle, but I've done it a bit wider this time because these tend to be a bit bigger, as in the plugs, and a little bit, no, about the same depth on them. And all I'm going to do with these is just use this, just hopefully gently lever them up, and then just put them in here. Let's try this. So as you can see, there are a lot of roots. You want to try and get them as much into the hole as possible. And then as before, just gently push down. This just, even if you get excess compost, as long as you've got the roots in the hole, just by gently pushing them down, it just puts them right down deep in the hole. And then any excess compost will leave on the top. And as before, just gently firm around the main stem. And then, because this, again, the compost is quite dry, I'll just water them in afterwards. So I'm going to time-lapse through the rest. And I think, as I said before, that's going to be it for today. I might just do a quick video on how the rest of the garden is going. I may do, I probably won't. But there is news. Today, our first potato came up. Today being Saturday. Alright, I'm going to get on with these. So that's about going to wrap up this video. I'm sorry in the last shot I didn't get much of my face in, but that's because it's so much easier moving them across and I'm standing up and sitting down. So apologies for that. But thank you for joining me this week. I should be again doing this next week. I don't know what we're going to be doing because we're nearly there now with planting and sowing everything. So please join me next week for another episode of Horticultural Hails. Next week I will be doing a loop around, definitely. So yeah, so join me next week, and please keep growing those gardens.